everyone, and welcome to USA Global TV and Business Talk Radio. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and our show today is The Power of Etiquette and Manners. I am so excited. We have a special guest today, a friend whom I've been working with for over a year. He brings so much incredible beauty to this world. We're going to be bringing him out shortly. But first, I want to introduce my co-host. He's also a talking head here at USA Global TV. He is the principal of the British School of Excellence. Let's welcome Philip Sykes. Hello, Philip.
Hello. Lovely to see you, Dr. JACALYN. And again, Friday. Welcome, everybody.
Woo!
Can you believe it? I can't believe it. The time has just flown again. And just felt like I was with you yesterday. But obviously a whole week's disappeared. And a warm welcome to all of you wonderful people out there.
Philip, I agree with you. Time just goes by so quickly. And the show we had last week was amazing. And since that time, there was a follow-up. We actually had a special event yesterday with our guest, Mike, and Dr. Alan Bernard. So thank you so much for the introduction. I want to talk a little bit about what you're doing at the British School of Excellence, because our show today is all about manners when it comes to table manners, when it comes to meeting and greeting heads of state, royalty, dignitaries, etc. So do share with us what's going on there.
Excellent. Right, everybody, a warm welcome again. Here at the British School of Excellence, we focus on the power of etiquette and manners, emotional intelligence, really what I love calling is core life skills, to really make a difference in this world, to connect with people on a far more dynamic level, and to make people feel very welcome and put them at ease. And it's quite interesting that you mentioned, Dr. JACALYN, about table manners and dining etiquette and that sort of thing. Before we were the British School of Excellence, we were originally the British School of Etiquette, and we pivoted into the British School of Excellence because I think excellence should be sort of portrayed by us all. We should always try and be better than we were yesterday and be excellent. So our courses and programs focus on children, teenagers, we focus on business professionals, we focus on students, we focus on adults, right across the board. And we do absolutely take on board the coaching and training and guidance of table manners. And this is a very important part of life, because when you pick up a knife and fork or a pair of chopsticks, or you eat with your right hand, or you eat with a spoon or a fork, you've got nowhere to hide. So your table manners are a very strong public display, and people can tell a lot from someone who really doesn't conduct themselves in a very decent sort of way around the table. And this is something that is respect for yourself and showing respect for other people. So yes, we do. We actually delivered some dining etiquette programs and courses. We deliver the afternoon tea etiquette as well. But as a lot of you all know who connect and engage with us, we go very much further and very deep into EQ, how the head and the heart are connected, how do we really connect with people, and how to put our best foot forward.
Thank you so much, Philip. Really appreciate that. And I love the fact that you spoke about it's so much more to have etiquette matters than, do I put a fork in this hand? Does the knife go over here? Where does the glass go? It starts with us as people, as human beings, and really being authentic and genuine and caring for each other and living that as a way of life.
Completely. It is a lifestyle choice. This is life. Everybody who listens into this, and I just wish and hope and pray that people let the world know what USA Global TV is about, because there's this show and there are umpteen dozen other amazing shows with such incredible content, with specialists, experts who really pour their hearts out and pour their incredible knowledge that they have gained and experience they've gained over the decades. And this is a really powerful platform for people to take themselves to the next level.
Thank you, Philip. I appreciate that. I do think at the end of Friday, when I finish the final show, I just look back and think everything I learned for the week. And it's so much more than I could learn in a book. It would have to be 20, 30, 40 books in a week. And people come from all over the world and share their stories. So I'm grateful to you and everybody on our team who makes this possible, and everybody who's watching and helping spread the word. So thank you again. We have an amazing guest who is with us today, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show. I met him through Helena Shard and Ian Pelham Turner. He is so accomplished. When I was putting together his banner, there's not enough room. In fact, on YouTube, it takes up 2 different spaces, but I'm just going to put up his banner. He is a celebrity chef, okay? He has actually cooked for heads of state, presidents, royalty, etc. And yet he's so down to earth. He's won all kinds of awards. He is the chair of the West Coast Regional Inshore Fisheries Group. We have spoken to him many times about what's going on over in Scotland, as he is our special correspondent here at USA Global TV. Let's welcome Simon Macdonald to the program. Hi, Simon.
Hello, Dr. JACALYN, and hello, Philip. Nice to see you all, and hello to my viewer.
You know, your banner's so big, we're going to have to take it down because we won't be able to see. So we were joking before the show started. I asked you if you had your kilt on, because that's something that you're very proud of. And I know you're coming to the United States soon for a function, and you will be all kilted up, so to speak.
Oh, absolutely, yes. And the after effects of far too much imbibing at Christmas time has had to mean I've actually had to get a slightly larger kilt.
Well, with the way you cook, it's no wonder, because you really are incredible. So, Simon, I want to spotlight you, and I would really love for you to share with our audience who's tuning in for the first time more about your background. You're no stranger to television. You've had your own television shows. You've been a lead presenter, and yet at the same time, you are this down-to-earth, really wonderful person, easy to speak to and easy to just get along with. So I'd love for you to just share everything with our audience that I haven't shared yet.
You make me blush, Dr. JACALYN. You're very, very kind and so on. Your check's in the post. No, I've been around in the culinary world and television world now for more years than I actually care to remember just now. It's embarrassing to think how long I've been doing this. I've enjoyed every single bit of it and every single minute. And if you don't look forward to Monday morning, it's time to think about a new career change. I love Mondays. They're great. It's the start of a new week and just keeps me on the trot all the time. So in my life, I have cooked for many, many people, A-listers, Hollywood celebs, more than one royal family. I think at the moment, last count was about 5 royal households, including our own, and even for US presidents. I have 3 of them on my list as well, and they've all survived, so the food can't be that bad.
Oh my gosh. Simon, what is it about food that you're so passionate about? You're really good with pairing as well. So when did you realize that you had this incredible gift?
The first time I got hungry, I suppose. We have to eat, and if you don't eat, you'll fall down, and that's it. So if you're going to eat well and enjoy what you eat. It's all part of life. Life should be fun. It should be enjoyable at a sustainable pace, and that's what I've tried to achieve all the time. And I've always liked to strike up a rapport with the people that I'm working with, and with the people that I've been cooking for as well. I mean, it's so important because that gives me greater ideas and greater inspiration in how to create slightly different dishes, be it toned down for very informal occasions, or for extremely formal occasions as well, where you're almost frightened to sit down or even to poke your head around the corner of the room in case you might offend somebody. But something you should never be afraid of. Go for it, do it, and enjoy it, but watch others.
Good direction. Thank you for that, Simon. Philip, I'd love to start off with a basic understanding of table manners, and then we'll work our way up to what it's like to meet and greet with royalty as well as heads of state.
Well, table manners, as we could all appreciate, as I mentioned earlier, it's a strong public display of how we conduct ourselves at the table. And actually, funny enough, and I think Simon will be able to sort of hopefully compliment me on this, but Queen Victoria had the most atrocious table manners. She really did. She was yeah, just didn't, no attention to detail. Amazing queen, I believe, but her table manners were all over the place. But yeah, table manners are a really positive and powerful way of sort of, I think, showing and putting your best foot forward. You know, good table manners will always be well respected and regarded. And when I talk about good table manners, it's not just eating with a knife and fork, because we're a multicultural small world now, and so right hand in certain cultures, or it could be chopsticks, or it could be the ceramic spoon, it could be a fork, it could be a spoon, but it's how we conduct ourselves at the table, our posture, using the napkin correctly, offering to pass dishes around the table rather than sort of just sitting there waiting to be waited on by everybody around you. It's really that conduct of respect and care for other people while you are appreciating your food, and that for me is really, really powerful. You know, again, not chewing with your mouth open, not talking with your mouth full. Those sort of things are really key. No elbows on the table, because those are all very strong public displays of just letting yourself down. And I think this is something that all of us can help our young children with from a very young age, just with repetition, a little bit of continued repetition rather than scolding them. You know, for example, I have my 7-year-old son, Harley. And if he does start to talk with his mouth full, I just go, and he goes, Dad. You know, but he gets it. He knows exactly how to handle himself at the table at the age of 7 years old.
Wow, that's brilliant. I love that, starting children to understand etiquette manners at a young age. Simon, anything you'd add on to that?
Yes, I mean, one thing, it bugs me as well. People who hold their knives like that. You know, a knife's for cutting, a pen's for writing. When you're using a knife at the table, you hold it like that, and you've actually got more control over it anyway. But people who hold their cutlery like they're holding a pen, you know, disturbs me. Having said that, of course, there's different etiquette in different countries. You know, I know in the States, when you're eating, you tend to put the knife down after you've cut your food. Here, you have control of your knife and fork all the time. So there are anomalies from one country and one culture to the next. Chopsticks, I've never mastered them at all.
I haven't either. Simon, what about, I just wondered this, when we're using the knife, we're using it correctly, do we put it on the plate in between cutting food, or do we put it onto the table? What do we do with it?
No, in the UK, you will hold on to your knife. You don't put it down unless you've finished your meal. Then the knife and fork both go down together, and with the tines pointing up the way and the fork and everything sort of from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock. So that's it. But the rest of the time you hold on to the knife. But I've noticed in America, then people, they tend to put the knife on the plate once they've cut the food up, and then use the fork. So it's the first time I saw it, I thought, oh, yeah, because I mean, Philip's right. You really do. You get a very good grasp of who is who around the table just by the way they hold the knife and fork, or generally with their table manners. Talking with a mouthful. Well, I always got into trouble with that as a kid, and eating like a cement mixer is a big no. So yes, and the positioning of the knives and forks as well. I mean, you can go into a room or into a restaurant, and you can see people looking at this array of cutlery in front of them, and thinking, what do I use first? Well, general rule of thumb: work from the outside to the inside. And you won't go wrong there.
Absolutely.
And
people,
yes.
you're so right, Simon. People stare at this. You know, in the Western world, I think we confuse a lot of people with all the shrapnel on the table. Other cultures, as I alluded to earlier, the chopstick. You know, Asia, they've got a pair of chopsticks and a lovely ceramic spoon. Hopefully not too much confusion there. But you're quite right. I always say to our students, think of clapping your hands. You know, you start from the outside and you move in. We never clap our hands, you know, going like that. And the other thing, and I know you would have, and this is without me hopefully assuming, I'm pretty sure this may have happened to all of us. we've sat down at a table and you've got guests on either side of you, and the guest on your left is utilizing your bread plate, and the guest on your right has got your wine glass in their hand. And it's not a case that they're badly brought up. They just haven't been guided or steered on how to sort of handle themselves at a table. So we tell our students to do, to create a sort of a B and a D in their hands like this. So your bread plate will always be on your left-hand side, and the D would be your drink. And I love sort of sharing with people, if you're a car enthusiast, it's BMW, which is bread, meal, water, and for adults, bread, meal, wine. So these are little tools that we can instill in our little, what I love calling our little arsenal, our little storage box of tools that help us, put our best foot forward and help us with our confidence. And it's actually quite interesting. And, Simon, I think you really relate to this, and Dr. JACALYN, education has, in my opinion, in a lot of schools have lost their way when it comes to this sort of refinement, because they're all very focused on academia. And case in point, we had friends of ours who sent both their boys to a very exclusive school here in the United Kingdom. And I mean, top draw. And I'll never forget their young son being invited at the age of 18 or 19 to a friend of his home, which they happened to be a very wealthy family, and they had staff to serve at the table. And this young chap got back and he said, "Mum, I was so embarrassed. I didn't know where to start." And he said, "Mum, I felt really awkward." And she said, "I'm sending you to go and see Philip in the future." But it was a bit of tongue in cheek. But at the end of the day, this is really what this boils down to. There's that wonderful French phrase, savoir faire, the know-how, knowing what to do in any given situation. And when you have these tools in your little imaginary arsenal, you can really put your best foot forward. And you don't have to worry about your eating and how you conduct yourself at the table. You can really be present and focus on what's going on around you and the people around you and the company and the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. I mean, of course, I'm a true-blooded Scotsman, so heaven help anybody who picks up my glass unless they're putting some more in it.
So that brings up a good point. So I love that BMW, by the way. That's great. What happens when someone does pick up your bread plate or your wine glass? Do you enlighten them?
Politely slap them around the face.
No, seriously, what is proper etiquette?
Oh, they pick up my bread, I pick up their wine glass.
We'll do a swap, an exchange.
Yes, that's right. I can forgo the bread. Just give me more wine. I'm happy.
But is it proper etiquette to call people out about their table manners in the moment?
I think that it's a silent etiquette there, really. It's not terribly good to turn around to somebody and say, which pig are you related to, or anything like that. No, you do it in a silent way and a polite way. Never ever cause any disruption at a table. I mean, it puts everybody off their food, and everybody off their stride. In particular, if you're a guest at a dinner, then your host is always right, unless you know your host extremely well and you can make a bit of light banter about it. But the thing at table, never pull anybody up. No. Family accepted.
Family accepted, absolutely not. However, you could, as Simon alluded to, a bit of banter and a little bit of sort of, you got my bread plate, I'm taking your wine glass. And if you know the person, I mean, you wouldn't do it with a stranger. You never want to belittle anybody in any sort of in any environment, really. It's not our place to do it unless they've really stepped out of line. And then you can do that with the art of diplomacy. And I think that's something that a lot of people can really sort of get away with, telling someone off without them really feeling too hurt or too embarrassed. But yeah, you wouldn't, Dr. JACALYN, I think telling someone off around how to conduct themselves at the table, unless they really are behaving, completely off sides and they really are badly behaved, then there might be some words sort of in a very light and sort of simplistic sort of way, not to embarrass them openly, but find a little bit of art of diplomacy to connect with them and explain X, Y, and Z to them. And this can often help, if you are, let's say, for example, I've had many opportunities to travel to various countries, and you could put it in such a way that, it's interesting how you handle X, Y, and Z. And it's quite interesting here in the United Kingdom, we do ABC, and sort of give them sort of a comparison and some guidance.
Thank you very much. Another question I have, and we see this a lot on reality TV shows, you're invited to a formal setting where there's place cards and people are changing around the place cards when the host or hostess is not looking. What is the etiquette on that?
Oh, you should put up with exactly where you've been seated, because generally there is a lot of thought goes into exactly where you're going to be placed at a table. And the idea of it, of course, is to get people to engage in more conversation, rather than having cliques at one end of the table all know one another, and then people at the other end who don't know. So you mix the party around so that it gives a good even balance right the way through. And of course, the golden rule is lady, gentleman, and so on around the table.
And what if you are with someone, you have a guest, are you to be seated next to them, across from them?
It depends where the host wants you to sit. Let the buck stop with the host. They're the ones in charge, basically. So the buck stops with them. I'd say that's probably the way forward there.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. But I would love to share a lovely story with you, actually. I was very fortunate many years ago to be invited to one of the race days here that is held in the United Kingdom, the Derby. And I was invited by a lovely bank, and there was this place setting where we were being well looked after. And I'll never forget what happened. Someone literally had done that. They had taken my name and they put, and my name landed up somewhere else. I didn't say anything. I accepted it. That's no problem. And actually happened to sit back next to some really nice people. And what this bank had done is they'd given everyone a sort of a potluck, a ticket for, a draw for a couple of the races. And it was under our side plate, and we were able to take it out. And I landed up winning about £500 because my horses came in. So I thought, well, I'm not going to be complaining if someone swapped my name. So that person who should have been sitting there should have been the winner of that £500. But I got potluck that day. So yes. But going back to what Simon says, you don't mess with anyone's seating plan. And the host and hostess, generally, what we tend to find with dinner parties and engagements, whether it be in a restaurant or at any particular venue, a lot of time, thought, and energy goes into these table settings. Not only just the decor, but who's to sit with who. They often want to, Simon, I think, would have a lot in common with Mary, and we'll put Angela on his side because he's a great conversationalist. He's got knowledge, and and so they think about this and they really work it out, and it makes a big difference, and it adds to the energy and the ambiance of a dinner party. It really does. The second thing that's really fun to do is the hostess may often, when you've got your name card, is put a name on the inside. So after you've had your starter, she asks the gentleman to flip their name cards, and they then have to go and find where they pick up their wine glass. In Simon's case, he picks up his wine glass first and then takes his napkin, because your napkin is personal to you, and you'll go and find, and it just mixes up the energy at a dinner party if it's not a too formal a type of dinner party. So there's lots of things we can do to bring a lot of energy and fun to a dinner party.
Yes.
I like that idea. Interesting. So what about whether it's formal or informal? You are at a long rectangular table and the person who's supposed to be opposite you isn't present, and now you are across from a chair. Have you ever had this happen? It's like you are the odd person out now and you have no one to speak directly to across from you.
Well, that person then hopefully has got a very good excuse for not being there. And they should have let the host know in advance that they're not going to be there, so that either they can find somebody to replace, or they adjust the table setting accordingly and move everything up so that you're not left staring at a blank wall. But you've still got people to the other side of you to converse and sort of diagonally across from you as well. I had a lovely experience, quite an alarming experience at a dinner in France. and it was quite a formal sort of dinner with the local mayor and various other dignitaries, and the local bishop as well. Or yes, it is a bishop there. And there was one of the guests there, and he had this really long tie on, and he kept flicking the tie over his shoulder like this every so often. The bishop was getting a little bit annoyed about this, but didn't like to say anything because the tie would be flicking him in the ear as it went back over the shoulder of this chap. So somehow or other, he was carrying a pair of scissors. He just very, very quietly went up and snipped the tie. I mean, the whole table went into an absolute eruption. It made the whole night, and I think people will talk about this dinner for years to come. But the point was made. But I mean, if you're going to start flicking your tie over or flicking your napkin about the place, just mind who's next to you. They're not actually in range.
Now, a question I have, obviously the person flicking the tie wasn't following proper etiquette, but what about the person cutting the tie?
Well, I mean, being a bishop, he can get away with whatever he likes, basically. Who's going to argue?
It sounds something like out of Mr. Bean. It definitely does sound like a sketch from Mr. Bean, but I can just picture that happening. Very funny.
Yeah, that's a great story. I want to just ask a follow-up question. So with the other scenario where there's the empty chair, I've seen this happen many times. The person who's left facing the empty chair will go over to the other side and say, I'm sorry, would you mind if everyone moved their place settings down so that I could be included in the conversation? And people looking like, what? And then everyone moves is that proper etiquette?
I would leave it to the host to deal with that one again, because I say the host is overall in charge, and if the person opposite has is delayed or can't make it to the place, they were probably called in beforehand, so that situation shouldn't really arise. But certainly, if it's if the host is aware, then the table setting should be adjusted accordingly to remove that chair in the place and then just spread out the table that little bit more.
Absolutely. I think you've got such a wonderful point there, if the host is aware. And that is, there's an art to being a good host. Making sure that everyone's glasses are topped up to a certain level, making sure that people are comfortable, they have everything that they need or desire. And that is one of the things, is to make sure that if the seating is not looking quite correct, then you jump to it, and you would react just as Simon said. You would remove the cutlery in the chair and make sure that the spacing between the other guests was appropriate and that everyone felt included. And this is something which I find a little bit frustrating. I'm sure we've all been to restaurants where, let's say there's 6 of you and they put 3 people on either side facing each other, like you're at boarding school. I love having someone on each end. So I've often gone to a restaurant and I've told them, I've said, look, there's 6 of us, but I'd either like a round or I would like a table with a chair on either side so that we can feel complete. It really does. And as a good host and hostess, there's an art to all of this.
Absolutely. And I have to share that over the years, I've hosted a number of get-togethers, black tie included. And I remember even at my wedding, that role of being a hostess is you have a lot of responsibility. And I always felt like I wasn't supposed to be thinking about me and relaxing. It wasn't about me. It was about my guests. And people would say, why don't you just relax? Why don't you have a seat? Because you want to make sure, even if there are people helping you with the event, that everyone is having a good time and taken care of. So what about that as a role as a host or hostess? Are you supposed to have so much relaxation time during the event? I think it's at the end of the event or after everyone's left.
The host is on duty effectively the whole time, and should be the one that remains sober for the evening, so that they don't make any gaffes themselves. And the way you're sat around a table is that everybody should be able to join in the conversation and not feel left out because they're on a bit of a limb at an odd corner of a table. So, eating should be a sociable experience, an enjoyable experience for everybody. It makes the whole dinner or lunch or breakfast or whatever that bit more enjoyable. But you shouldn't have your table arranged in such a way that there are going to be one or two people or more sort of left out of the conversation at either end.
Thank you. Philip?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the key things about conversation, not leaving people out, I know this may sound very sort of fragile, but there's obviously topics that you definitely avoid at whether it be a nice breakfast, luncheon, or dinner. You've got to, there's an art to conversation. It's actually one of the programs we run, the art of conversation. And again, Dr. Jacalyn, this brings in the art of listening, because the art of conversation, the art of listening are very much go hand in hand. But there's clearly the do's and don'ts of what you can and are comfortable talking about, and areas that you definitely avoid. And just for the audience and the listeners out there, you don't want to bring politics into the conversation. You don't want to bring religion into the conversation. You don't want to be talking about money. You don't really want to start talking about anything. I think I might have mentioned political. You want to avoid negative conversation. I think you want to bring positivity and energy, especially with what the world has experienced in the last 24 plus months. So those are the areas to avoid, and not to belittle anyone, not to embarrass anyone. And Simon, I think, will appreciate what I'm sharing here. There is the English, the British, the English, the Scottish, the Welsh, the Irish. We've all got interesting senses of humor. And so there maybe a certain bits of banter will go around the table on the grounds how well you know one another. But otherwise, it can be a little bit more, I'm not saying staid, but it's very sort of hopefully clear of what you can connect on and what you shouldn't connect on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you always got to be aware at tables that the person next to you might be of slightly more nervous disposition. So some topics should definitely not arise, and bad news topics definitely is a no-no. The stock and trade ones of religion, politics should be ideally left aside, unless you're a bishop who's got a pair of scissors handy. Then fine, you can get away with it. But there are topics of conversation that should definitely be left aside. And if you're if you're dining with the royal family, you do not talk politics at all, because they've got to be totally apolitical and really not take sides. So you cannot try and extract anything that's going to be awkward or embarrass your host, be it the Queen or be it your best friend. You've just got to be so careful not to come up with anything that's going to cause any controversy around the table.
Absolutely. No, you wouldn't even ask their opinion on anything at all. And actually, in this particular situation, for the person who does all of a sudden pop out with that particular question, the art of deflection is something to take on board rather than take offense at something. The art of deflection. So if someone said, "Oh, Simon, what age are these?" And he said, "Oh, age is just a number. I'm full of life. I look forward to my Mondays and I thrive on life." He couldn't say, "You never ask a gentleman his age," or "Dr. Jacalyn, how old are you?" You never ask a lady her age. You can put your boxing gloves on and be defensive if you want, but I think there's a wonderful way to have this art of deflection and bring some humor into it, and move on from the awkward question or the awkward situation.
Yeah, so you've got to be diplomatic and be able to diffuse a situation, and then you stand a fighting chance of getting invited back. If only the second time to return to apologise, and the third time to return the cutlery.
Simon, you're so funny.
You must be careful when Simon comes over to the USA. If you ever entertain him, Doctor, just frisk him down before he leaves.
I have another question. This is when you're in a social situation and you are dining at a restaurant or a venue somewhere. It's a group of people, and the bill comes. I've heard various things about how the bill's supposed to be paid, if it's supposed to be split up. But the most recent thing I heard was the oldest person at the table should offer to pay the bill.
That's an interesting one.
Look at both of your eyebrows. tough one,
A
that
sudden silence. I'd be broke.
You'd be like, don't invite me anymore, I'm not going. So who does pay for the bill? And then what about in the scenarios, this has happened, and of course not for a couple of years because I haven't been out that much, but people would actually bring at the time a calculator now with the phone, and they take the bill and they're actually adding up each of the things that they had and doing the tax, and then they're part of the gratuity. What is proper etiquette in paying a bill?
Well, not to invite that person back again, I think is number one. But the person who has arranged the evening out at the restaurant should be the one to sort that out before you go, to decide who's going to pay or how it's going to be split up. Will one person pay this time and another person pay the next time, or are we just going to split it amongst ourselves? And when you do the split, just do it liberally, allow a certain amount aside for the tip. But do not produce your mobile phone or pocket calculator at the table. Do not photograph your food on the table as well. I mean, this, everybody's got mobile phones, have got amazing cameras, and they get a little bit too liberal in using them. And there's nothing more off-putting than seeing somebody getting their phone out and click, click, click on their plate, especially if it's got a flash as well, and suddenly the whole room goes like that. So these things should be left well away from the dinner table. There is no place setting for a mobile phone.
I like that.
Love that. 100%. 100%. Just beautifully put, Simon. I can't even add any value to what you just shared. I just think it's absolutely, don't ever invite that person back if they bring out the calculator. But again, it's communication. It is exactly, so I might treat this time and maybe you can do, and it's just talking this thing through. However, if there is a scenario where it's a celebration, then the host and hostess will take care of that sort of thing. But there's nothing more awkward, especially as we get older. I can understand students dividing things and being very, penny conscious. That's fair enough. But when you get to a certain stage of your life where even if you are in a new job and you're a new recruit, there's always something about being able to pay the bill, and it'll come back to us. I truly believe money's an energy, and we should just look at it that way.
Yeah, if at all possible, pay the bill. If you're doing a joint thing or paying the bill, or even if you're paying it yourself, do it away from the table rather than sitting around the table and passing this bit of paper around. If there's two of you are going to sort the bill between you, both go up to the counter or the reception or wherever and settle the bill there, and then rejoin the table. Because you'll notice if the bill goes around the table and everybody gets their mathematics hat on, and it's an absolute conversation killer. There's a stony silence, and then it's difficult to pick up the conversation again afterwards. So everybody feels slightly uncomfortable. Have I paid my share? Oh, what if? So just leave the table and settle the bill away from there. The table is for the food. It's not a counting shop.
And it can ruin, as you just said, Simon, it can ruin such a fantastic evening because you get two people squibbling and squabbling over this. No, it's my treat. And it does. It becomes awkward. And that's the last thing you remember. The next morning you wake up and you say, gee, wasn't that awkward? That was embarrassing. Or that really put a bitter taste in my mouth. So it is really important that this is orchestrated professionally and accordingly.
I agree. And something I wanted to add to what you just said, Simon, is I think when you get to be a certain age, I don't know what that age is, you have to assume that when you're going out to dinner, you can afford to go out to dinner, whether you can afford to pay for everyone or just yourself. And you make that decision in advance. And if you are with people who are going to be pulling out the phone or the calculator, or, oh, you had dessert and I didn't, or you had the appetizer and I didn't, so you owe more than, you don't go out to dinner with them. That's the way I look at it.
Absolutely, yes. No, all that should be decided before you get there, and if it's not, then just immediately decide two people, then go up, away from the table to sort out the ins and outs of it, and you can have your argument outside the room, but not at the table.
Definitely. I'd love to turn the conversation to when you are dining, or you're going to be in the presence of royalty or heads of state, dignitaries, and the type of etiquette and manners we need to probably study up on if we haven't been in this situation before. But what are some key tips that you can share with our audience, Simon?
Very often, I mean, if it's the first time going to the palace or wherever with royalty, then the protocol department will be in touch and and give you a sheet as to the do's and don'ts. But basically, if you're seated there, then the Queen will be the first one to sit down, and then everybody else takes their place. You don't start eating until the Queen starts eating, and if she stops eating, finish her course early, and she doesn't eat huge quantities, be prepared for that. But if she stops eating, then that's it. You stop eating as well, and the dishes are cleared.
That's fascinating. It's interesting they send out protocols in advance. Do they also include how to dress?
Generally, there will be a dress code with the invitation. I mean, if it's for a state function, then it will be a formal occasion, medals be worn, etc. So we dress accordingly. There's a great thing in Scotland. A kilt can be very formal, or it can be very informal. So we can get away with the heck of a lot up here. They think, oh, well, these poor people in Scotland, they can't afford trousers. They got to wear a kilt. But the kilt is it's a wonderful thing, and it really takes you absolutely anywhere in the world. I mean, thoroughly recommend anybody who is eligible to wear a kilt should. And generally, the variation of formality depends on what you wear on top. So, during the day, it is very informal. You might wear the ghillie shirt, as I did on the show that day, which is, it's almost like a big nightshirt. If it's a bit colder, then you wear a tweed jacket. Then for a formal occasion, you would wear. There's a variety of them. But the popular one is the Bonnie Prince Charlie jacket, which is a black, sort of almost like a shortened version of the dinner jacket, lots of silver buttons on it, and a waistcoat with 3 buttons on it as well. And then bow tie, or you don't see it as often now, but a jabot. And I mean, a jabot is a wonderful, wonderful thing. It almost acts as a bib as well. And I just actually, my last jabot eventually fell apart, and I've just got a new one there, which it was made in Venice. Beautiful lace. So I'm looking forward to wearing that one in Boston.
And what about for women in terms of dress code?
They should be very careful in what they wear. You don't want anything too revealing. In particular, if you're at a state banquet, it should be, it should be chic. It should be, it should be formal, and ideally dark. You don't want anything too garish in color. The Queen can get away with wearing bright colors, and will often wear a bright color so that people can see her. Because she is very, very small. I mean, she sort of comes up to about there on me. She's very tiny, but she's the sort of person that comes into a room and absolutely fills it. At a state occasion, then she'll be more formally dressed with the with her honours and what have you on as well, and usually be a white gown that she wears for that.
Fascinating, thank you. Philip, did you want to say something? I think you're on mute.
Yeah, I do, and this is just lovely. Simon was sharing that if you had the pleasure of dining with the Queen, it is all about the Queen. And I want to go back to Queen Victoria. People actually used to actually dread being invited to have a meal at the palace when Queen Victoria was present, because they would leave hungry, because what would happen is she wouldn't wait for everyone to get their food at the same time. The first moment the food arrived, she would just tuck in, and she'd be finishing while the person at the other end of the table is only just receiving his food. Now her knife and fork, she's had that first course, and it's getting taken away. So the chap at the end of the table, his was being whipped away before he's even got a knife and fork to it. So actually true. It's genuine in what I'm sharing with you, and it just shows you that there is a protocol to follow, and this is where your etiquette and manners absolutely. You've got to step up, and you've got to know how to engage. You've got to know how to address. This is exactly what Simon alluded to. You get that sheet that's got the protocol. You may not touch the Queen, for example. You would only shake hands with the Queen if she extends her hand first, for example. And I know that, and this is bad. This is down to bad sort of protocol training from lots of heads of states around the world, where we've had incidences where someone's walked, say Donald Trump walked straight in front of the Queen. We had a scene where Michelle Obama, arm around her, ready for a picture. So and I'm not blaming Michelle Obama, or well, let's not go around the other chap. But at the end of the day, there is definite ways of connecting and engaging with people, whether it be with royalty or people of a certain status. You've got to understand this gives you that ability to be confident and put your best foot forward.
Absolutely. Yes.
Absolutely. So a question I have for you, like you are invited to attend an event that the Queen is hosting, you get the protocol sheet, and you just can't help yourself because you think, I might not ever meet her again. I'm going to go up and introduce myself.
Wait till you're introduced first. There's always an opportunity, either going into the dinner or leaving the dinner or the reception beforehand or after, that you will be given the opportunity to be presented to the Queen, and you are presented to her rather than just sort of casually walk up and say, "Hello there, it's I'm so how are you doing? How are
hey,
the
what's
dogs? Up? Do you want to try this recipe?" And yet she is actually quite an accomplished cook in her own right. There was a wonderful incident where Prime Minister at the time, Margaret Thatcher, was staying at Balmoral, and Prince Philip, he was a dab hand with the barbecue, and they were out on the estate and they had the barbecue, and Margaret Thatcher was sort of terrified that here's the Queen sort of dealing with the dishes and Prince Philip doing all the cooking and so on. The Queen was insistent in washing up. So when it came to Christmas, Margaret Thatcher sent the Queen a pair of marigold washing up gloves. She didn't know what else to do.
Oh, that's delightful. Oh, delightful.
So I have a question just to piggyback onto what you just shared, Simon. Not in a situation like that, but let's say you have been invited as a guest to someone's home. Do you, at the conclusion of the dinner, offer to clean the dishes, offer to pick up the dishes, or do you just sit while the host or hostess collects?
It depends how well you know the host or hostess. If they're really good friends, then fine. Everybody mucks in. But you're not expected to do that sort of thing. Sometimes it can lead to a slight embarrassment because behind the scenes, the kitchen might be just an absolute tip, and they don't want you to see the kitchen. Generally they won't accept help to go behind. If it's a formal occasion, then you don't even broach that subject. It's it's just not on.
Yeah, and Dr. Jackson, even at a formal situation, you would never, if we were all sitting and there were 8 to 10 of us, we wouldn't start stacking plates or any of that. You would never do any of that. You just, it's not part of good dining ethical protocol. You would wait for the person who's serving you to clear your plate, and at the same time you would only clear everyone's plates once everybody's finished. So the host and hostess should try and keep up at a certain same sort of momentum as the rest of the fellow diners. You may get someone who does a lot of talking. You may get someone who does a lot of talking, and so their plate they take a long time to finish their meal, and you get other people who wolf their food down. Now, again, there's an art to dining in the sense that you should rest between mouthfuls. You shouldn't just put food in your mouth and then start attacking your food with your knife and fork again. There's a moment of resting, chewing your food, swallowing it, maybe having a sip of your water, your wine, and then again preparing your next forkful. So there's a pace that you go at, and just a little bit of information for anyone out there. When you do force your food down, you get that, and you rush it down, you get that feeling 15, 20 minutes later, feeling it overly full and completely, whoa, this is too much. If you rest between mouthfuls, it takes 15 minutes for your stomach to tell your brain that you're full. So you'll eat smaller portions, and you'll be able to enjoy more of the courses and embrace the flavor and the quality of the food as well.
Yeah, I mean, the big no-no there as well is starting to take away plates when somebody is still eating. Surprisingly, I've had 5 years out in South Africa, and that is quite a regular occurrence there, even in the restaurants as well. They'll come round and you're still eating and somebody else has finished, so they whip the plates away. It's very off-putting. It makes you think, so you've got to sort of shovel it down your throat as quickly as you can, so everybody's finished at the same time. It's a dreadful thing, that.
It is, and that's lack of training and coaching of the team. Again, it's overachieving to try and keep yourself busy. And I couldn't agree with you more, Simon. If that ever happens, actually, and it does happen, I think globally, I just whisper in the waiter or waitresses, won't you wait until we all finish, please, because it's not fair. I mean, Simon and I could be really digging into something gorgeous and scrumptious. Next minute, Dr. Jacalyn, your plate's whipped away, and we're going, oh crumbs, we better. What do we do? Put our knife and fork together? Do we finish? It's just this awkward. And at a party of a nice round table of 10 people, wait till everyone's finished. It's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I remember various times in my life dining with my father. He would say to the waiter, waitress, "We are dining this evening, so I will call you over when we're ready to order, and we'd like to have the courses spaced out because this is an event for us. This is not just." And sometimes you would get looks like, because they want to turn the tables. And so I'm just wondering, what if somebody, you are with people who love to shove the food down, eat quickly, and you're with other people that know this is a dining experience. How do you handle that? Speechless.
Yeah.
Philip?
I would go to default where Simon said, you don't dine out with those people. It's the same person who brings their calculator out. Again, Dr. Jacalyn, I think that's an interesting question. I don't have a direct answer to that because everyone to their own. And if they haven't been sort of guided through the correct dining etiquette and protocol, then you are definitely going to face awkward situations such as that. And I don't have the direct answer on this particular occasion.
Yeah. Yes. No, I mean, that's exactly it. Yes.
Yeah. I think my father always had his way because he was paying. So
that's a nice thing to do, because there's the communication, and that is the right sort of form. If you want to turn the table, then you must tell the person booking the table, we can offer you a table at 7, but you need to be out by 9. Then that's managing your dad or whoever's expectation. Otherwise, the formality of going to a nice restaurant, you would expect to, be able to sit there for X amount of hours with your wonderful company and have it staged, because there's nothing worse than being rushed or forced, or feeling rushed or forced in any situation.
Exactly. I agree. So now you've attended the event, or you've gone to the person's home for dinner. What is the proper etiquette of follow-up? I imagine it's a thank you card, but do you send flowers? Do you send a gift? How does that work, Simon?
Well, generally, send an apology. Depends how you behave that night.
You have a whole box of them, right? Apology cards.
I actually had somebody phone me up. We had a fabulous dinner party a few years ago, and there was a lot of alcohol drunk, as well, in Scotland, that's it. And I had a phone call the next day, and there's a very sheepish voice. It said, Simon, I said, I'm really sorry about last night. And I said, what for? He said, well, I don't know, but I presume I probably have to apologize. Right, okay. No, it's nice to send them, if it's a formal dinner, then it's lovely to send them a card. You don't need to go to the extent of sending flowers, because maybe if there's been 30 people around the table, then it's going to look like a greenhouse at the end of the day. So yes, it's very nice to send them a card, just thanking them very much for the dinner and the hospitality and the charm of the evening. I suppose you can get away with an email, but it's just not got the same personal touch as actually putting pen to paper and sticking a stamp on it, and giving the mailman something to do. But definitely that. I mean, a phone call, yeah, okay, that's fine if you know the person well and it's a bit more informal. But for formality, then there's nothing better than sending a card.
Thank you. Philip?
Tick, 100%. Even if we've been invited to friends and it's just my wife and I and them as a couple, we will always send a thank you card or thank you letter. And yeah, the telephone call is getting out of jail free, in my opinion. It's nice to you may pick up the phone and say what a wonderful, gorgeous evening it was, but then you would follow up with a lovely handwritten note or letter. And yeah, I'd love to also just bring this forward. Is a lot of people get confused about what do we take to a dinner party, what is appropriate, what's the correct protocol, what's the correct, and I'm gonna break protocol here, because the old school was you would never arrive with flowers, because that meant the hostess had to remove herself and go and find a vase and put them in. And you would never arrive with a bottle of wine, because if I arrived at Simon's home with a beautiful bottle of X, Y, and Z, and he's, oh, do we open, don't we? Now, back in the day, you wouldn't arrive with one, because Simon most probably would have gone down to his cellar and he's chosen the wines that he wants to have with the first course and the second course. And so it would make the host feel embarrassed. Now, I think time has moved on. Champagne was always appropriate, by the way. Champagne was always absolutely appropriate. Handmade chocolate was always appropriate, and all of those sort of things. Those still very much stand today. But I think, if you do want to arrive with a nice bottle of wine or a nice bunch of flowers, and specifically if you know the host and hostess, or a nice orchid, or a beautiful reed diffuser, or a nice candle, those are very appropriate. Now, and why I say the flowers, because I think there's not many people who don't like receiving nice flowers, firstly. Okay, and that they can just be popped on the side for the moment. And taking a bottle of wine, if I arrived at Simon's home with a nice bottle of wine, he could just write on there, from Philip, and say, you know what, Philip, that's a gorgeous gesture. I'm going to put it in my set, and when I open, I'm going to raise a glass to your health. So you can get rid of that awkwardness of feeling that you have to open that wine now. Unless I arrive at Simon's home and he's got a Jacob's Creek Cabernet Sauvignon, then I'm going to say, we're opening my bottle of wine. Or like a Kumala from South Africa. Trust me, those are wines that you could start your motor car with.
Yes. Oh, I know South Africa actually produces.
No, but like a Kumala. No, South African wines are fantastic, but there's a brand very similar to, Kumala. If you ever get served a Kumala, you'll crunch. You really do. You pour it in your vehicle and you drive home very fast.
Yes, yeah. The trouble is, it burns the valves out of the car as well. But yes, I mean, it's very clever. You write your name on the bottle. It means then that your host can't give it away at the next party they go to.
Well, you receive it back. Yeah.
Yes.
You put this in the giveaway pile.
Yeah. No, if you are going to take wine, then give it a lot of thought before you take it, because there are a lot of very offensive wines out there. Absolutely right with champagne, although there's some pretty offensive champagnes as well. So that's it. But you don't need to extend as far as, say, a 1961 Chateau Margaux. I've got one bottle left. But be sensible about wine when you take it. So consider, if you know your host and your hostess, consider what their taste in wine is, and also the sort of food that they you might expect to be there, and the sort of food that they like. So you buy wine appropriate to that as well.
These are all good points.
Yeah, all planning ahead.
I think it was the last time I had a holiday party, many people brought gifts that I never used and then had to get rid of. And they brought like people know I only drink Chardonnay, but people brought everything but Chardonnay, which I thought was interesting. So I think to your point, if you know the host or hostess, then I think, yes, bring the wine. If you don't know them and you're just in the store guessing, or you're looking to see, oh, well, somebody gave me this and I don't drink that, not a good idea, because people do remember. And I know for me, I thought to myself, I guess you don't really know me. You've been out with me how many times, but you brought me this, or something that I'm allergic to that you brought me anyway. And of course, I make a mental note and think, well, probably not going to be invited for the next party.
Yeah. If in Scotland, if you take along good single malt whiskey, you're going to get invited back, guaranteed.
That is for sure. That is for sure. Especially now, how popular whiskey's become as an investment vehicle as well. So you're so right. A good single malt whiskey definitely gets mileage.
Yes, every time. And and the host, clever enough, will steer this conversation round to the subject of malt whiskies and then state what his favorite one is. So then you're sort of obliged for that one the next time we go.
Now, what about this? And I don't know if you have this there where you both are, but here in the States, it's pretty common to give, and not me because I worked in this industry for a long time, but people will give gift cards. So they give a gift card to something. And I've actually had people comment to me, because I sold employee recognition programs that were all about tangible rewards, as opposed to giving people cash or giving people gift cards. Because if you give them that, they don't even know what they spent them on. But people will give gift cards that are for things that they know the host or hostess is never going to use. It's like, oh, I have this extra gift card for X number of dollars. I think I'll give it to the person at the dinner. To me, that seems like very bad etiquette, but I'm not judging. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, gift cards is for, it's the gift for the person because you can't think what the heck to give them. And, I'd steer clear of that every single time because, it's going to offend somebody because they think, oh, they're giving me a gift card because they just can't think what else to do. And they think it's not thoughtful. So, you've got to try and personalize a gift. You've got to just research and get to know what your host's likes and dislikes are, and then, work around that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We do have a comment from the lovely Diane Floyd-Bain. A wonderful show with great tips for all of us. And she's watching on YouTube, which I love, over on our YouTube channel, USA Global TV. Thank you, Diane.
Hello, Diane.
And for those who don't know, Diane is one of our team members. She is a co-host, a talking head, and an elevated listener. So good to have you with us, Diane. All right, it's time to wrap up our show. Simon, I'm going to spotlight you and put up your giant banner. But for people
that'll fill the screen.
So who would you like to reach out to, Simon? And your email address is up here. So for people who are listening on the radio, it's Simon's name, Macdonald, MacDonald, Simon, SIMON, at ymail.com.
That's it. Yes.
Who would
Absolutely.
you like to reach out to, Simon?
Well, anybody and everybody. I'm not proud. I'll accept anybody. I mean, any chat you want to have, or tips and ideas, be it on the subject we've been talking about, etiquette, or food matters, or wine, pairing wine and food, then please just drop me the line, and I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. And you can always get me on Facebook at Simon Macdonald, and there's all the other things at Smoked Simon. I think it's the Twitter one, and so on and so on. So carrier pigeons, whatever.
And you can also see Simon right here on USA Global TV every Wednesday for the United Kingdom News and Culture Show. All right, Simon, thank you again for being here, and you enjoy the rest of your day and weekend.
And you too. And Philip, you have a good weekend as well. And it's been an absolute pleasure and delight. I love these shows that Dr. JACALYN does because they're intimate. They're so sociable. It's just it's old friends meeting up every time, even if it's somebody you've met the first time, like Philip here. Just feel that it's friends around the table. It's great.
It's real
Thank
TV.
you.
It's real. It's so
It
real.
is. It's
Yeah,
thank you for
it's real
saying
as
that.
opposed to being reality, which is a totally different bad word.
Exactly. That's entertainment. And this, I think it's just like what you said. I always feel like we're in an intimate setting somewhere, even though we're available for the public to watch us.
Yeah. So just got to watch the sweary word.
Right, exactly. And so for those of you, I see some more people just joined us. You can watch this show in its entirety over on our YouTube channel, which is USA Global TV. And you can also watch it on our website, which is usaglobaltv.com. All right, Simon, thank you again. I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday.
Great. Look forward to it.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
Simon.
Bye. Bye, Philip.
Bye. Philip, another brilliant show.
Thank you. Lovely. Such a lovely gentleman, Simon, and you know, just so clear on his guidance and steering for people, and a gentleman with a wealth of knowledge, which is just outstanding.
And you know what else I also have to say? I agree. I love how Simon is always dressed to the nines. You're always dressed to the nines, so professional. And I think that that just sets the tone for the show.
Well, thank you, and I think it does. You know, show up every single time, no matter where you are in the world. There's always you can always take a blazer and tie with you, and a nice pair. Well, always got to wear trousers. I jumped up. I'm definitely wearing my trousers, Dr. JACALYN, or pants as you call them in the USA. So yeah, it's important. It's about you really making an effort. Not it's showing respect to who you're connecting with, but also it elevates you as an individual. As a person, it does. It definitely, it's your mindset, it's your being, it's everything about the power of presentation. And maybe we should do a show on the importance. I know we've brought the lovely Elsa in from the styling point of view, but how important it really is to make an effort to put your amazing best foot forward.
Hi.
Say
Hi,
hello.
Harley. How are you? Nice to meet you.
Yes, Dr. JACALYN. Say hello.
Hi. I remember I saw you in your Christmas outfit.
I was just, yes, you did. And I was just telling him about your good table manners.
Okay.
Yes, I understand you have great table manners.
Great table manners, hey. You say goodbye to everybody, and I'm going to say
Bye.
Bye.
You know.
Philip, one thing I'd love to just end on, because I think this would be really helpful because it's not coming from me, it's coming from you. I always think it's interesting when I'm interviewing people and they're not in front of a blank wall or a green screen and they're somewhere in their domain and there's a bed with clothing or there's a closet door open. What's proper etiquette when you're being interviewed for your background?
Look, nowadays with, you know, which was obviously created when we all had to go into our sort of shells and work from our various homes and well, our homes, not our various homes, our homes and apartments. The feature is that you can blur out your background. It's very easy. It's done on all the platforms now. I know for a fact it's done on Google Meet. It's done on this particular platform. It's done on Skype. It's done on Zoom. So just blur out your background. And if you do happen to have a very small studio or apartment, just make sure you've got a blank wall behind you. Tidy up and make sure you've got good light on you. Do not have any open windows, as in exposed light behind you, because it will silhouette you. And make sure that you're able to look into the camera point on your computer or on your phone or on your laptop. It really is important because you've got to connect and engage with people. And this is the power of us all moving forward now, because this medium of connecting and communicating is not going to go away. I think people are very keen to get back to face, obviously, but this medium now will always be very present in our lives. So show up, be polished, check your equipment, and make sure there is a huge amount of etiquette and manners attached to connecting and engaging with people at this level.
Thank you, Philip. Very well said. I think it doesn't matter what your situation is, wherever you are, if you're in a one bedroom, if you're outside, if that's where you have to be, just be professional and bring your best self forward, because this is a public domain and it is out there forever.
Completely. And you know, you don't have to go out and buy expensive green screens. I literally travel with a piece of cloth which is most probably, I don't know, 3 meters wide, 4 meters wide. It's a very light cloth, and it's a height of a normal ceiling, and just some drawing pins or tacks, and you can pop that behind you, and it just incredible, because you, like Dr. JACALYN, you and I have these amazing backdrops, but if we, you know, this is on our green screen. And it's very easy. The mechanics of a lot of these platforms accept a green screen.
Exactly. So whatever your background is, just make sure it's professional. Like Simon, very professional background. And if you are looking to get a green screen, as Philip said, you can get green felt.
Absolutely.
And part of the reason is because we want people to pay attention to you as opposed to whatever is going on in the background. If it's in a state of disarray, people are like, oh, what's that? What's over there? And I think it helps keep the professionalism.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
What a
thank you
great
so
show.
much. Yes, another great show. Thank you, Simon. I have to say again, thank you, Ian Pelham-Turner and Helena Shard, for the introduction to both of you fine gentlemen.
Well, Dr. Jacalyn, wishing you an amazing weekend, and to our wonderful listeners and audience, until next week.
All right. We'll see you again. And bye to Harley.
Bye-bye. All the
Bye.
best. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. So many incredible tips that were shared today for all kinds of situations and settings. And thank you again to Simon. I really do try to create an atmosphere where people just feel comfortable. That's why we don't use any scripts. And many times I interview people whom I've never met, which I love because I do some research on them. And then I ask the first question and see where they want the show to go, so that it's really authentic and nothing is planned in advance. And then it is as real as possible without being reality TV. We don't want to go there. All right. We have a full day of broadcasting today. We broadcast Monday through Friday. And this week we have 22 shows. It's normally between 20 and 24. We will be adding some new shows starting next week. I'll announce that on Monday. It's very exciting. If you'd like to be a guest on any of our shows, you can go to our website, which is usaglobaltv.com. And at the top, you'll see book your session. Some of the shows, the co-hosts do select their own guests because they have a specific topic that they're focused on. So you'll see by invitation only. And that means that either myself or the co-host need to invite you so that you're on point with whatever the topic of that show is. Otherwise, you're welcome to book on any of the shows. Thank you again for being here. Thank you for sharing the word. And thank you for just being a good person and helping others. God bless you all. I'll see you again shortly. Bye, Simon. Bye, Philip.